Okay, so you're using it right this very second. In fact, you use it every single moment of every single day. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about your working memory is probably wrong? We're about to explore a totally new way of looking at it, a model that completely changes how we picture what's happening inside our heads. So let's dive right in. All right, to really get this new idea, we've got to start with a classic puzzle of attention. It's a situation I can pretty much guarantee you've been in, and it reveals a really fundamental mystery about how our minds work. Just picture it. You're at a loud party, right? You're totally locked into a conversation. Everything else around you is just a blur of background noise. And then, from clear across the room, you hear your name. And bam, your attention is just instantly hijacked. This is the cocktail party effect, a phenomenon that's fascinated researchers since it was first described by Colin Cherry way back in 1953. Now, here's what's so wild about that. It creates a huge problem for the older ways of thinking about attention. I mean, if your brain is supposedly filtering out all that background noise, how in the world did your name get through that filter? This really simple, everyday experience tells us that our minds are doing something way more sophisticated than just blocking stuff out. So, how do we solve this cocktail party puzzle? Well, the key is to completely throw out an old, kind of clunky metaphor. We have to stop picturing memory as a physical place, like it's a series of boxes or some kind of filing cabinet in your head. For a long, long time, psychologists pictured memory as a series of boxes. Information would supposedly move from, say, a sensory box into a short-term memory box. But the new embedded processes model, it just flips this whole idea on its head. It suggests there's just one single vast system. Working memory isn't a place information goes, it's a state of activation within that system. So think less like your computer's RAM and more like a state of awareness. And that is a huge shift in thinking. I mean, if you're not moving files around in your brain, then what exactly is going on when you hold something in mind? Well, the best way to visualize this new model is with a really powerful metaphor. Imagine a spotlight shining in the vast, dark landscape of your mind. So, let's start with the landscape itself. This is your long-term memory, or LTM, and it's not some dusty attic, okay? It is the entire foundation of who you are, every fact you've ever learned, every person you recognize, every single skill you have. It's all in there, just kind of dormant, sitting in the dark. Now, imagine a big floodlight sweeps across a part of that landscape. That's activated memory. It's a chunk of your long-term memory that's been primed and made ready for you to access. Think back to the cocktail party, right? The sound of your name activated that information even though you weren't focused on it. It was lit up and ready to go. Okay, now here's the real core of working memory. Inside that floodlit area, there's a single, super powerful spotlight. That's your focus of attention. And it can only shine on a tiny number of things at once. We're talking maybe 3 or 4 items. This is the information you're consciously thinking about and working with. It's not in some separate box, it's just the part of your long-term memory that's currently got the spotlight on it. This whole spotlight metaphor, it's more than just a nice way to think about it. It's actually a model that's backed by a whole lot of scientific evidence. So let's take a quick look at how researchers have actually put it to the test. I mean, seriously, researchers have thrown an incredible array of tools at this theory. Brain imaging like fMRI shows them where the activity is happening. Other techniques can track brain responses with millisecond precision. They can even temporarily and safely disrupt specific brain regions to see what happens. And you know what? All of these different methods keep pointing to the same conclusion. This dynamic, activation-based view of memory really holds up. So, to make this a little more concrete, let's just look at one key study. In 2010, researchers named Chain and Fies used fMRI to actually see which model of working memory best explained what was happening in people's brains during a memory task. They basically put 4 competing theories in a head-to-head competition, including that old box model and, of course, the newer embedded processes model. And the results? They were crystal clear. The pattern of brain activity they saw was a much, much better match for what the embedded processes model predicted. The data showed that different brain areas, the ones we know are related to rehearsal and attention, were firing in exactly the way the spotlight theories said they would. Okay, so we've got this new metaphor, and we have real scientific evidence to back it up. But so what? What does this actually mean for how we think about our own minds? Why is this new picture so important? Here it is. This is the most important takeaway of all. When you're holding a phone number in your head, you're not moving it into some special working memory box. You're simply activating the concepts of those numbers that already exist deep inside your long-term memory. You're just turning on the spotlight. It's such a simple, elegant idea, but it changes everything.
And this leads to a pretty profound idea. If working memory is really just activating things in your long-term memory, then the act of working with information might be the very same thing as strengthening it. In other words, learning. Now, this is still an active area of research, but it suggests that just holding something in your focus of attention is fundamentally linked to making that memory more permanent.
So let me leave you with this question to chew on. If every single time you bring an idea into your mental spotlight, you are reinforcing its pathways in your mind, does that mean that every moment of focused thought is, in some small way, an act of learning? It's a pretty fascinating thing to think about.